My lords, ladies and gentlemen, very warm welcome back to Transport Fever 2 and the Deluxe DLC American Southwest series. The little town that we see in front of us here now is the small and untouched and relatively isolated town of Nashville, and I've pre-selected Nashville as as our third town that we're gonna turn into a maybe not so much as maybe Metropolis is pushing it a little bit, but we're certainly going to push it up to much bigger heights than it currently is reaching, and it will become one of our other hub towns. And then obviously we'll have a main line that connects into here from Carrollton as well as Knoxville. The two commodities that Nashville currently requires are fuel and food, both of which should be relatively easily obtainable in the immediate area. The food will certainly be quite a bit easier. We have farms nearby and there is a food processing plant nearby as well. When it comes to getting fuel, we do have the fuel refinery not too far away by the river's edge. However, we would need to look into increasing the supply of refined oil that we have currently being shipped into that refinery. As it stands, it's the refinery that is feeding the city of Knoxville that we set up several episodes ago, if you remember. I can't remember the exact number of the episode, but it's one where we run from Athens to Fort Lauderdale to the refinery and then through to Knoxville. So we might have to make some changes over there, but it should be relatively straightforward anyway. So let's bring up the user interface so we can see where we are. 1921, just shy of 3 billion in the account. That is obviously not something we have to think about anymore. And we can have a look at Nashville and its surrounding area. So as I mentioned, we do have a food processing plant down here just on the outskirts of Fort Lauderdale, and we also have this farm up here as well, which is the most obvious source for the grain to supply this, which will then in turn supply Nashville. That is straightforward enough. The fuel, this is the one I was alluding to. It's the Bellevue Fuel Refinery. It is currently being utilised. However, it's only serving consumers, it's only supplying the city of Knoxville, and it's being supplied by the Fort Lauderdale Oil Refinery, which is right here. So to make sure we can get a decent amount of fuel to both Knoxville and Nashville, both of which are cities we want to keep very well supplied, of course, then like I said at the start, the chances are we need to get some more crude oil into here so we have a higher flow through of refined oil into the Bellevue refinery. That might mean, rather than having the current setup where the train picks up from over here, drops off here, loads up, drops off here, loads up, and then heads up to Knoxville, we might have to have separate lines. So one dedicated line supplying the crude, one dedicated line that takes in the refined, and then dedicated lines from Bellevue both up to Knoxville and down into Nashville. In terms of connecting in for the passenger mainline service, the mainline runs up here by Chandler, so we can feasibly get into there quite straightforward. We could come off somewhere down here, bypass the quarry south of Chandler, through here and into wherever we decide to place our station in Nashville. And then for the connection to Knoxville, well, like I said, it depends on the orientation and placement of the station, but we would probably do something along the lines of running out of Nashville, perhaps coming up here, and seeing back connecting into our passenger line, our main line, that's the wrong one, our main line here prior to this bridge. So we'd have good interconnectivity and it should be reasonably straightforward. So I think the first thing we're going to do is, because Nashville hasn't grown at all, we've not provided it with any services yet, no passenger links, no freight links, so it's still there or thereabouts in its default state. I think we'll do some renovation work in and around here, so we'll pause it while we do this. And if we just make ourselves some nice space here, I think this little area here, we will flatten it down a little bit, just so it isn't quite so pronounced. And in fact, we may even just use a flattening tool and just level it all out and then blend it in at the end like this. There we go, that's a lot quicker and we get the same effect. So at the minute we've basically split Nashville in two. In fact, we may as well just get rid of all of that as well. So a complete reworking of Nashville just to make room for our station. And our station is going to go right here, and we're going to do very similar to what we did in Knoxville, where our station sits, get your words out, where the station sits slap bang in the middle of the city. So in terms of tracks then, we'll have it as a passenger station by default, then we'll put cargo access in afterwards. So we're going to want one platform that runs into Knoxville, we want one that runs into Carrollton, so that's 2 so far. And then we'd want local service lines to Fort Lauderdale, into Chandler, so that's 4, maybe Bellevue, and certainly we want to go into Green Bay and potentially Clearwater as well. So I'm about saying that though, some of these local services, so like Chandler, Green Bay, Fort Lauderdale, potentially Bellevue, etc., they could share a platform, so we don't have dedicated platforms for every single service. So I think for the time being then, I'm going to say we'll have 4 platforms. We don't want the catenary at this point. I think it was the previous episode where I was talking about holding off on the electric trains for the time being, and I'm sticking to that. So 4 passenger platforms, that gives us dedicated ones for the main line, Knoxville and Carrollton, so there's 2 of them. And then we have a couple that we can use and have them multi-split for the local service. So in terms of station placement position, I'm thinking we'll go something like, in fact, shall we just go straight up against this main road here? In fact, before we do that, why don't we future-proof that road and upgrade its size? And I might even go as high as a large capacity street. So some major disruption going off in downtown Nashville, but they will very quickly rebuild, especially when we start prompting that rebuild by getting them some supplies and some transportation links built in. And let's go ahead and put our station right there. So that's going to remove even more buildings, but I'm not too concerned by that. As I just mentioned, they will rebuild pretty quickly. What I'd like to do is first of all expand the amount of, in fact, why don't we have short platforms either side down here, and that'll give us an extra 2 platforms for the local services, and then that gives us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 platforms in essence. And we won't use this outer platform, but we will obviously run a track down here because we then want to put a platform in for cargo purposes. And I think what we're going to do here is, rather than having 4 cargo platforms as one would ordinarily lean to, especially when you have a potential maximum of 4 cargo items being brought in, we're just going to stick to 2, when we'll have 2 items being brought in on the one platform and 2 being brought in on the second platform. So I think that will do for our station then. What we're going to do now is get some tracks, and I'd like to lay these tracks out so we know exactly where our tracks are going to be headed and in which direction, and we've laid claim to the land in and around the station. So when it comes to building our tracks and running these lines out and connecting into these platforms and what have you, it's going to be a lot easier. So let's get something like this. So we'll use these 2 as the lines that will form the primary incoming and outgoing lines that connect into the rest of the network. So let's run them out a good distance, and then everything else, especially for, well, on the passenger side anyway, the rest will come on in and connect in their own way. So something like this will work. So we're gonna have to remove yet another building, but that's, as I've just been saying, it's not too much of a problem because we know they will rebuild. Let's get, well, because this is going to be a local service, we don't mind if it's running a bit slower on the junction. So let's get a 40 mile per hour switch just there. And Just for completion's sake and just to fill it all out a bit, I'll do something like that as well. Won't be used for any sort of access purposes, but all of this just gives a better feel to the station. I think it makes it look a little busier, rather than just having just straight tracks almost. Right, so let's get that one in, and this is our final passenger line connection. But then what we want to do is, well, in fact, no, it's not. This is freight. So what we want is our freight to come off a little differently. We'll keep that in. Again, it's just for aesthetic purposes. We won't actually anticipate the trains using that. This little switch here. But it, like I keep saying, it just fills out the station that little bit more, gives it a bit more. It makes it a little bit more pleasing to look at. And at the end of it all, we're going to have our diamond switch, and that will allow full access across all range of platforms there, both in and out. So that's that side. Then we'll do something similar but different on the other side, and once again we'll use these platforms here as our quote-unquote primary platforms, and then bring everything else in. Again, this is, in fact, that will be our freight, so we don't want that to actually connect in like we did on the other side. We'll just keep it a little separate here, and maybe put an expanded diamond like that there. And then these three platforms, these are what we're going to have crossover and link in. And again, there's no, I'm not doing this in any sort of logical way. I just want them all linked in, and if we can squeeze a couple of these decorative, if you will, switches in as well, then all the better, but I don't think we've left ourselves a room to do that. But that's okay. So over here is where we'll have our diamond switch. There we go. Okay, so just something like that will work quite nicely. Let's pull these two freight lines out as well. And we'll do the same down here. And we'll want, should we do another of those expanded diamonds over here as well? So it'll still work as a diamond, although it looks a little bit different to the standard diamonds that you come in and build ordinarily. So something like that. What we'll do now is, before we unpause it, we will give them a means to get across to this side of the station. But before we do that, what we want to do is put down a couple of cargo buildings along here. We can't do it there because we filled out that with track, and it has to be against a platform. So I think what we'll do is we'll put a passenger platform down here, even though we won't have any passenger services coming along this side. And then over here we'll put a couple more entrances and exits, both cargo and passenger. Get a, maybe not quite so high capacity road as we had on the other side, but we'll get at least a medium sized road across the front of all of this, so then it's actually accessible and they can use it. Keep this road straight for the time being, and we want to try and get a bridge over the top of this now. So let's see, can we get a bridge over there? We can, but we're not going to be able to get up to that bridge height from there, certainly not, but we can always just delete that road back. Bridge pillar collision, there we go, a bit further, yeah, there is about perfect. Bridge style, we'll stay with the stone arch bridge, I think. And what we're going to do now is just push that road back there, and then have this bridge curve around into there. Maybe replace that with earthworks. It looks a bit odd for now, but the idea is they will eventually fill all this in with their own streets and buildings and industries and residences and the rest of it. So while it looks a little bizarre at the moment, I'm hopeful that the AI will take care of how it looks for us on our behalf. What we're going to do now is over here expand this road somewhat into a town road and a medium size, and then we want to put another bridge over here like so, and if we keep that bridge level, it looks a bit arched, but we'll go with it, and then do the same thing here and just have this connecting. We could run it down there, that'll work, and down here it probably won't, but if we push it out we should make it look a little better. Yeah, that looks okay. I mean, this bit doesn't, but we can attend to that ourselves by just pushing this back, getting the ground leveler tool or the ground smoothification tool, blending it off just a touch, and then doing or rebuilding that connection there. There we go, that looks better. So now hopefully they will be encouraged to build over this side. We need to get this bridge connected in somehow, and I think what we'll do is we'll run a road down here and have a connection not like that, maybe like, oh no, that's, no, I do not like that, so we'll do it from the bridge itself. Construction not possible. Is there any way we can make you possible? Well, no. What about if we take the bridge? Oh no, we can't take it back that far. Or what we could do to cheat the system is put a little node here. Bridge pillar collision. Yeah, that's not going to work, is it? What about earthworks then? Yeah. No, still got a bridge pillar collision. Ah, yes, it's pushed the bridge pillar there, hasn't it? What about this then? Yeah, just like that. Just to give us the availability or the option to delete back a little bit like that. Right, now can we get this to come down in a nice tidy way? Too much slope. Okay, well, why don't we push you back to, say, here. Have you state your current height, and then bring it down. Still too, oh, okay, there we go. And what would earthworks look like? No, let's go for the bridge, and let's just go as high as we can before it starts to get upset. I think, oh no, what the heck? Yeah, it looks bad, but it will work. Hopefully now they'll be encouraged, like I keep saying, to actually build on this side of the train station. So we have the effect of the train station being in the middle of the city. Let's just unpause it and see what they decide to do. Hopefully they don't just build into the side of this cliff face, because that would be upsetting for more than one reason. And yeah, hopefully they will come over this way, but we shall see. So that's the start. I think what we'll do first of all is get connected into the passenger main line. So here's our main line here with the iron bridges, and we want one connection this way and one connection up around this way if it is at all possible. So let's see, let's get tracks. We'll go into Carrollton first of all, because I think that will be the easier of the two to handle. And which way do we want to go? We probably want to come curve here, tunnel through here, and then maybe come out this way. And that'll bring us straight into our main line at this nice open area here. So let's zoom in and get started. So we'll have you maintain your current elevation, so there's no gradient changes at all. And it's going to be quite a long tunnel here. $6 million worth of tunnel. But it makes it a bit of a landmark feature on the railway, so we'll go for it. And this will obviously have the unofficial name of the Nashville Tunnel. Yeah, it's okay. It's a bit big, but it is what it is. And from here it should be reasonably straightforward to connect into our main line over there. Now we probably want the game to determine the gradient for us at this point. So that's a tunnel there, a cutting there. I don't mind that little tunnel there, that's quite pleasant. So we'll just come alongside very briefly the cargo line down to the iron mine just here. Obviously we don't interact with it, but there's the potential to see the train as it passes between the two tunnels from time to time on a cab ride. We did unlock the Vickers Victoria aeroplane just there. I didn't point it out at the time because, well, we're not at the stage where we're using airports and aircraft right now. Later on we will do, of course. It's a big map. There is the scope and the potential for them, but we don't need them at this juncture, so I didn't feel it necessary to draw attention to the vehicle unlock. Anyway, where's our passenger line? No, we're a lot closer than I thought we were. So if you're heading in to Carrollton, ideally we want you coming this way, and you're too high there, aren't you? You need to come down, maybe to that sort of height. In fact, let's just see what elevation we are at down here. 4 meters, okay. So we know what we're aiming for. We're aiming for 4. We're currently at 4. That was quite useful. So bring this down and have it. No, we won't feed it in there. The speed was too slow. How far can we drag it? 60, 54. Well, what we can do is actually just get rid of this bit here. Come all the way back to where we were straight, which is just here. And curve off a little, I say more aggressively, we're still doing it at 75 miles per hour, but also have it come down to that 4 meter height, which is right there. And where are we? Let's go a little bit more that way. 4 meters, great. Keep 4 meters. Yeah, that's okay. Let's just pull that back because we want to make sure this radius as we connect in is able to do it as high a speed as possible, and we got 75. Perfect. Yep, that will work. Let's just make sure this overlap does look okay. It should look reasonably okay, and it should be tolerable. Yeah, it is. And then it's just a simple case of bringing this line all the way around the corner into there. So now we're going to need to just quickly think about our signals here. So let's put a one-way signal there and there. We'll also put one there. And then let's go and just put a couple of short signals to clear that junction in case there is anything waiting behind. We already have one there to work for that direction, so that will work okay. Now it's just the actual blocking signals throughout the length of this journey into the city of Nashville. So let's go ahead and get those done, and we can keep these reasonably well spaced out because we're not going to have hundreds of trains running down here, so we don't need the blocking numbers, if you will. Let's put a searchlight dwarf signal in the tunnel as well. Yeah, we don't need a great number of blocks if we're not going to have a great number of trains, is what I'm trying to say there. And I think that should work for us. We probably want to go ahead and put a signal up against this diamond just there. And we could probably get away with one there as well to clear the diamond for anything on the platform that wants to leave as well. Okay, so now can we get a mainline connection from Nashville into Carrollton? We certainly can. You're on a dedicated platform, but we could probably jump you over to platform 3 instead. There we go. Yep, that's obviously all this is going to be shared, which is a-okay. And up here is where we will break away, swing down here. We know all this is fine. There's no interaction with anything else. Through into here. No, we don't want you on platform 1. 2, sorry. We want you on platform 3, one of the main platforms. There we go. So this is RP, and this is mainline, and this is Nashville Carrollton. There we go. Just change the colour up a little bit. Maybe go for a dark green on this one. Okay, wonderful. So locomotive then. Where's our depot? Where are you? You're down here. This one does have access. So let's go buy vehicles. What do we want to use? It's going to be the Atlantic. And let's colour these ones, shall we? So 1 loco. Passenger carriage, again, because it's mainline, we'll go for the heavyweight 281 parlour. And we'll start off with 3, on the understanding that later on we probably will want to add more of them. And yeah, let's go for 2 to start with. You can't see the line from there. If we come over here, you will be able to. There it is. You're unable to find a path to the stop. I thought we made it in such a way that you can get to the passenger. Or did we give them a dedicated depot for the passenger service? I'm sure we had it so they could get over onto the passenger platforms. Clearly not. Oh no, that's right. For the mainline train, we used the depot all the way up by Knoxville, didn't we? Right, so we need to give them a way to get over then. And all this is multi-directional. So what I think the best thing to do, it's going to be quite slow, but it's only for accessing from the depot. That should work if we convert this. Now we can't make that a double slip switch, which means they can't get onto platform 3 or 4. However, what we can do to make sure they can get onto those 2 platforms is something like that. That will work, I believe. I don't see why it wouldn't. Let's just find out. Can you go onto the Nashville to Carrollton mainline now? Yes, you can. Wonderful. So at this point, we'll end it for today. Spent more time rebuilding Nashville than anything else, or redesigning Nashville, which hasn't grown yet, but that's understandable. It's not like we're encouraging or prompting them to grow by giving them what they're asking for in terms of commodities and resources, but hopefully soon they will start to grow. Do you know what? I've just had a thought. I don't like the bridges. I really don't. They don't sit well with me, neither of them. So what we might have to do instead, and we've got time before the new trains get to Carrollton Station. Oh, they're built there. But I think what we'll do instead is give them a level crossing over all of this. And that's going to obviously cause traffic issues when they're having to stop all the while for incoming and outgoing trains, but it is what it is. But it should be more adept at encouraging them to expand their city to both sides of the station. So let's just fill all this in and give them 2 level crossings. Where could we get one in? No, we can't get one in there. There's a switch there, so we can't get it in there. What about? No, probably not because of the diamond. What about there? Nope. There must be somewhere where we can get it to cross over. What about right? No, we've got switches there, so it can't be there. It might have to be all the way back here then. Nope. It might even have to be all the way over here then, which is a little unfortunate. Or if we use a smaller road for the... No, we still don't want to do it. Let's just get rid of that. We don't need that anymore. That's obviously an artifact from the bridges we were building. You don't want that. In fact, we can get rid of that bit there as well. In fact, why don't we do it this way? That's easier. Smooth all that off. And then, sorry, level all that off and then smooth it off. Right, let's try this again. I'm mindful that I want to get back in time for the train departing Carrollton. Okay, I tell you what, I'll do that in my own time because there's surely a sweet spot somewhere. It's just finding where exactly the sweet spot is. But at least we have this connection over here already. Right, let's go back over to Carrollton and see then, is our train nearby? Our first train. Let's have a look. Where are you? I take it you are the first one and you're the second one. Yeah, that's right. So, as per, we'll pause the calendar progression, hop up to 4 times game acceleration, and just as the train is about to depart on its way to Carrollton, we'll hop on board for the cab ride outro. Okay, so we are just departing Carrollton now, heading towards Nashville. As always, I do hope you've enjoyed the episode, and comments and the such are always welcome. And as always, a big special thank you to those of you over on Patreon. But for now, all that remains for me to say is, as always, take very good care of yourselves. It's ta-ta for now.